Okay, so another video sharing some more insights that I had while in the Delta and during my week of contemplating the Gene Key 27, selflessness. Now, this video is not about selflessness. I'm just giving you some background. But I said in my other video that when it came time to contemplate this Gene Key selflessness, the word selflessness really I had a reaction to it. And I had to change that word to self-fullness. And as I contemplated that week, what kept coming up was my relationship and bad habit of overeating. So this video is about overeating, undereating, a relation. Anyway, I'll get there. Bear with me. So I had the big aha that the word selflessness, even a little bit to this day, I can feel inside my gut, my belly, a little bit of fear because I realize that I overeat to not feel the emptiness of the belly or the void. Because to me, feeling that emptiness and void felt like death, like annihilation. And that is indeed when you awaken to know self or to the oneness of things, the background of things. You know, people describe it as the emptiness, the void, and the fullness. And the fullness doesn't happen until you're more embodied. But that feeling, where am I going with this? Let me just go back to me. So I realized in that week that and that was my reaction to this word selflessness. This emptiness, feeling of emptiness, was mimicking the annihilation of the self, the ego self, right? And so the ego self was feeling this fear. And so in reaction to that, when I go to eat, which is just once a day, but it might as well be 4 or 5 or 10 times a day, because I get down and I eat, and I eat until my stomach is stretched. It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing to share this with you. I mean, part of it is due to lots of physical trauma, and I, as many of you know, when you have physical trauma, I can't remember the whole process, but something happens to the vagus nerve, and the stimulus of the satiation nerves don't function quite as readily, and so it doesn't. Little kitty cats back there. Doesn't register fullness as quickly as it would if the vagus nerve was functioning properly. Anyway, that's just an excuse. So during that week, I decided I'm not going to eat for a couple of days. I've got to face this emptiness, because will it really be my imminent death? And of course, just in the willingness to experience the emptiness of the body was enough. I no longer, during I think the 2.5 days, no big deal, that I didn't eat, I did not feel hungry. And surprisingly enough, I didn't even feel the emptiness. What happened was the emptiness, or the fullness that I felt out there, every time I said self-fullness, I just feel this fullness of life emanating from this empty space, beautiful feeling. Actually, my emptiness became fullness, and the fear subsided. So I faced my fear of emptiness. And where do I want to go with this conversation? You can almost, and I'm just speculating here, sharing my thoughts. you can take, our whole journey in this physical body really is all about food, is it not? I mean, everything we do is to have money, to have food, eat. I mean, that's our greatest joy, right? Food. Love food and our relationship to food and the belly, filling up the belly or not having a full belly. And I got to thinking that some people, I have a friend who prefers the emptiness. And I was thinking about food issues like overeater or anorexic or somebody who doesn't want to eat. So I am someone that prefers the inhale, right? To feel the fullness. And my friend prefers the exhale to feel that emptiness. And when there becomes eating disorders, I would say from my perspective, let's say my soul, my beingness is so heavily or was so heavily identified with physical life in the physical body that the thought of emptiness returning back to the one was so terrifying that it couldn't relate to the emptiness because it was so identified with physical life that it would using food to create the illusion of fullness and make the physical body very heavy. Does that make sense? And you could almost speculate that the person who is food avoidant, bulimic, or prefers not to eat and works excessively to keep themselves empty, is perhaps a soul or a beingness that is so frightened of the physical experience that it prefers to stay closer to the void and the emptiness. I mean, this is pure speculation, but if you have any of these issues, this is something to experiment with, to perhaps face your fear of fullness, face your fear of emptiness. And when you do that, just to have the willingness to face it, immediately the two equalize. Yeah, because when we awaken to the true self, it is emptiness and fullness at the same time. But that emptiness and the void kind of comes first until we embody it. But it does mean death of the ego. And that's what's afraid. That's what's functioning, right? The ego in me is functioning through overeating. You can't destroy me. And the ego in the soul that is still more attached to the void and the emptiness and being closer to God, too afraid to be in the physical realm. I totally get it. Prefers not to eat. Anyway, I hope that made sense. But either way, both ends of the spectrum face their fear. I think that's the underlying fear for both of them, is the annihilation of the self. Okay, I think that's all I've got. Until next time.